And Adam, why are you wearing your mask? Where are you? At work? I thought you were at the Kaisel. Every time I see you at the Kaisel, I think you're home. But you're at work. Okay. You look like you're very guarded. You look like you're very safe and people are safe from you. Okay. Today is about wearing a mask on our mouth, not to prevent germs, but verbal germs, not droplets, but the things that come out of our mouth. We're continuing to talk, but this is actually today, I want to share something about keeping our mouth shut, not just being careful what we say, but to stifle sometimes the urge to say something. So we're up to Eitzah number 4. So it goes like this. Sometimes we have the Yetzer Hara to say something nice to someone, not nice to someone. But if we would think about the reward, okay, of course we have to worry about the effects and we don't want to say it and all that. But another tactic is just think about the reward you get for controlling yourself. We could get for refraining for saying it. It will help us overcome the Yetzer Hara and not say it. In other words, you have to realize, there's a reward for being chaysem es piv, for closing our mouths. And he brings the Goin. The Goin brings the Chazal. The Vilna Goin says like this: V'chol rega v'rega, for every moment, sha'adam chaysem piv, that a person keeps his mouth closed in order not to say something. Zayche b'shviloi la'or haganus. When there is a struggle and you're struggling with yourself, of course, it's best if you don't say anything in the first place and you realize it's harmful. But inevitably, we have sometimes urges. But the schar of the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light, whatever that means, is you merit it if you close your mouth when the urge is pushing you to say something. She'ein malach ubir yechayim l'shar. The reward for controlling and containing the instinct to say something and holding it back is incomparable. And the Goin explains that the Or HaGanuz, this hidden light, is the bridge that connects Hashem with human beings. Because the Or HaGanuz is really just a question of perception, of being able to see Hashem with absolute accuracy. With that light, a person can see from one end of the world to the other. Hashem hid this light so that it should be used only by tzaddikim. It's interesting. He brings this Gemara. It just came to me. The Gemara says, when a child is in the womb of its mother, they can see from one end of the world to the other end of the world. And because there's a certain reality, and we know that a child in the mother's womb learns Torah, has a tremendous, and it says exactly that you can see from one end of the world to the other. And it's interesting. I was just thinking, why? Because there's one thing a child eats in the mother. It maybe even hears. We know that children hear. But the one thing a child can't do, an infant can't do, its mouth is sealed. Maybe when you have no way to say something, then Hashem connects you. It's our mouth, our communication, the urge to say things that starts to separate us from the connection to Hashem. When we have no ability to say anything, our mouths are shut, are masked, then the Or HaGanuz is interesting, just a parallel that came to my mind as I'm saying it. It says, the Zohar HaKadosh says that Esther HaMalka was Zerah to Or HaKadosh because she kept her mouth shut closed. She listened to Mordechai and didn't reveal, even though she had obviously her own instincts, what to say, what not to say. She never said which nation she was part of. You can only imagine how difficult it must have been. The Zohar is that's the same for every Yid. If you control the urge to say something and hold it back, you bring the Gula to the world. And they give an example. This is for the kids and for all of us. It says, your friend, the sibling, is singing off tune, telling him, you sound horrible, or you are so off tune, off key, as I know it's Dvarim. Think, he is singing so off tune, I have the Yetzer Hara to burst out laughing and tell him that he's so off tune. I'm going to control myself since that's what Hashem wants me to do, and I'll get reward for it. So I want to read an article that I came across, and it was very powerful to me. It's along these lines, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to read it to you, and it's really what I wanted to share with you today. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go all the way till 8:20. Had a pretty busy day, so I'm going to share this with you. So hopefully we'll walk away with something really exciting, really, really insightful. When I read it, it really struck me, and I assume it'll strike you also. He says, a while back, this author writes, Yesod History says, some of my children were bickering, and I did my best to put an end to the dispute. As I intervened, and this is the point here, very important point, One of the children offered a defense, explaining, but I was right. But I was right. I gave my son a knip, knip, and I responded precisely, exactly. He looked at me perplexingly, said, what do you mean, Abba? I gave him a wink and explained my response with the following story. Toward the end of his life, Rabbi Yisachar Daiva Belz was feeble and frail. At his tishon, because of his weakness, it was difficult to hear him when he spoke. One devoted chassid, wishing to hear his Rebbe, came up with a plan. Several hours before the Rebbe's next tish, he arrived at the Beis Medrash and parked himself in a seat at the very front, as close as possible to where the Rebbe would be seated. His plan hit a snag. However, when sometime later, Gaboim and others showed up at the tish and began quarreling with him over the prime seat he was occupying, he argued that he had come first, while they felt that he must vacate the spot. One thing led to another, and an all-out brawl ensued. The Rebbe finally entered to find this fellow and the others at loggerheads. Imagine, elderly Rebbe, still wrangling over the seat. The Rebbe called over the beleaguered chassid. He saw that he was hurt. He saw that, something was really bothering him. And he asked him what was going on. The chassid described how the fight had broken out over the seat he had reserved hours earlier. And I was right, said the chassid compellingly. And the Rebbe said, exactly. The Rebbe responded. The chassid gave the Rebbe a confused look. He said, you see, the Rebbe explained, the nisayon of life is not how you act, the nisayon of life is how you act, not when you're wrong, but when you are right. When you are right and the truth is in your favor, do you just lose yourself and engage in whatever sort of conduct you feel the situation warrants? Being right doesn't give a person a license to unleash his animalistic instincts. This vital lesson is applicable to every single person, whether you are challenged or confronted at home, in shul, at yeshiva, at a job, or anywhere else. It's our behavior when we are right and correct that will demonstrate what we're truly made of. That's such a powerful sentiment. Because even when you're right, and that's the truth is, when you control yourself and you don't react simply because of my right, and you hold yourself back in, the reward, the inner peace, the inner strength, there's nothing like it. And he writes here at the end, a very, very clever thing. He says, I once came across an article by Ruben F. Ribeiro, who quoted Google's translation of calmness as the state of being free from negativity or strong emotions. Ribeiro disagrees. Calmness, he says, is having a sword and knowing how to use it, but choosing to keep it sheathed at a moment of chaos. It is the quality or condition of being free or suppressing disturbance under agitated situations. You don't know calmness until you're put in a situation that contradicts your emotion and you stand your ground and you don't react precisely when you're right. And just recently I someone had a dispute with a neighbor, and there was a whole question whether the neighbor was responsible for breaking something. The kids had encroached on the other one's property, even though they were friends. And it was a ganze Geschichte, the whole story. And, the kid's a little Levitic, and the other neighbor reached out to me and says, what do I do? And finally, there was a broken piece. Finally, they got the piece, and the replacement was $100. And they didn't know what to do. Should I tell the people to pay for it or not? So I said, you're 100% right that they should pay for it. But, I think Y.Y. Jacobson once said this line. He said, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? You could go and be right your entire life, but you'll be miserable. You'll create animosity. You won't win friends. You won't live in peace with your neighbors, but you'll be right every time. But you sometimes just swallow it, even when you're right, and do it because I want to keep peace. I want to be happy. I want to make shalom. And for $100, it's worth it, because you demand $100, you'll end up resenting that person. If they say no, for sure they're going to resent it. If they do pay it, they're going to resent you. You'll go for the rest of your life in tension with your neighbors. If you forfeit it, you make an investment, and it feels much better. Knowing right is only for you, not to prove it to anybody else. Me and Hashem, the only one who had to know that we're right. As long as I know I'm right, then I can do whatever works. it's not about being right. It's about being peaceful. It's about being happy. To be right doesn't necessarily bring us happiness. And that's an amazing, amazing point. This is, it's from this idea of, it's precise when you're right that we have to control ourselves and the responses that we give. Okay, that's more or less what I have today. I had a busy day, and I was busy writing. Sometimes it takes longer, and then my grandchildren came over, and I was a little busy. So I ask forgiveness for not being as well prepared as I usually am, and to share with everyone more every Torah. But I hope the point got across.
I hope your hands aren't sticky stuff on you.
Say that again. Someone can say something. Let's hear. I want to hear from everyone else. I don't have anything left to say. So would anyone like to add maybe an anecdote, a little thought? I'm open. The microphone is open. It's open mic. We have 9 minutes, 8 minutes. Everyone doing well? Zach, you want to say something? No? Only you're quiet? Chaim, how you doing, Chaim?
Good.
Good message for tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. And Chalavna, it's good to see you. And we got the Rabinowitz, we got Adam. The other Rabinowitz, that's and we got Bev Berger. How's Frank? I haven't seen him in a while.
He's good. He's good.
He's not listening?
He's not listening. Not tonight.
Send him my regards. We got Bernie, we got Shai Steger.
I'll embarrass him into listening.
Are you going to bring the grandkids tomorrow on Shabbos, to the parade?
The grandkids are in Cleveland.
Oh, they're all in Cleveland. Who's with you? Sophie's here, right?
Sophie's here. Yeah.
Okay, she's over too. Oh, she doesn't get a peckle.
No,
Okay.
she doesn't get a peckle.
All the kids are there. I forgot. Okay, and the Shamlins are here also. Okay, so I'm gonna get to Mincha for the first time on time. Maybe I'll be able to say Karbanos also. You forgive me that I'm so short. I just really ran out of time before today. One thing led to the other, and I hope I make up for it. And you read my bulletin, what I wrote in the Dvar Torah. It's, I think, a very important lesson, a real important message about. I just point out, I'll whet your appetite, so then maybe it'll compel everyone to read it. Although obviously everyone reads it, I have no doubt. But there's only one person in all of Chumash. There's only one person in all Torah, I think, that it says exactly the date that he died. It's only one. We know Moshe Rabbeinu dies. The others we don't know exactly which date. There's speculation, but there's only one person that the Torah says that he died on Rosh Chodesh Av, and that was Aaron HaKohen. It's interesting. Of everyone in history, he's the only one, certainly in Torah, is the only one that says why. Why is that so significant? It wasn't significant to know when Avram died, Yitzchak died, or Yaakov died. It's somehow we have to know. So obviously it has to do with the Chodesh of Av is the Chodesh where so many tragedies took place. And obviously one of the first tragedies was the loss of Aaron HaKohen. And he left the scene, and the people were destroyed, obviously. It says about him, not about Moshe, that they cried for 30 days, universally. All the men and the women, everyone. He was so beloved that it was a terrible tragedy. So maybe that was the first tragedy. Maybe we mark it so we should know that for all of time. So I have a different, but certainly for tonight, we can leave it at this. The reason why it's so important, because the month that we suffered so many tragedies, perhaps it's because we lost that quality of Aaron HaKohen, of Oyev Shalom, Oyev Habriyas Makarim L'Torah Hashem. He was a Oyev Shalom, V'Roidev Shalom. He was an Oyev Shalom, V'Roidev Shalom. He was Oyev Shalom, V'Roidev Shalom. He never, there was no sense of self. It was always about others. It never said the wrong word, always trying to find the right thing, make people feel valued and validated. And that's really what Aaron, and when we lose that, we're in trouble. And I always often say, the Gemara says that the two Beit Mikdash, I mentioned this, the first one was destroyed because they sinned, the three cardinal sins. And in the second one was Sinas Chinam. And say, which one is worse? Of course, the second one, because it's already 2,000 years, it's not back. The first one, after 70 years, we were able to take the eraser. So Sinas Chinam, there's a famous line from that I believe it stems from Rabbi Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Cook. He says the antidote to Sinas Chinam is Avas Chinam, is to love people for no reason. So I say, I don't think loving people for no reason is the opposite of Sinas Chinam. I mean, you should love people, of course, it's a mitzvah. But I think the antidote to sinas chinam is sinas chinam means you hate people for no good reason. Avas chinam is to be able, it aligns with what we've been learning, is to find something positive, to find a reason to love someone. You do avas chinam, it's sort of like, like you give tzedakah, so you're a nice guy. But you know what it takes to be able to find the positive in a person, to be able to look at them and discover the positive, even though they may have some rough edges to them. Avas chinam is not the opposite. Sinas chinam is hating for no one. The opposite of sinas chinam is loving someone for a reason and finding the reason, not because you get benefit from it, because that person is great. When you find that and you love someone and he knows that you respect him, it's a lot more powerful than simply loving him for nothing. Christian love, I love you for nothing. I don't care. That's Christian love. Avas of a yid is to realize that we said all along that there's a tzelem alikim and this value, and even if he has a rough edge, there's something there that's there to find and know what he is, what he's all about. That's the opposite of him. So I'm not sure if I'm arguing with Rabbi Cook, who might argue with him, but I really think that's the opposite. The other one's not the opposite. Hating someone for no reason, the opposite is loving people for the right reasons. And that's a challenge. It's not always that easy. So mit Hashem, and also to love ourselves also. It's also, you got to start off with loving yourself. If you don't love yourself, it's hard to love other people. And we got to think positively about ourselves. And mit Hashem, you'll read my essay. I had a different take on this, so you'll tell me what you think. Meanwhile, now it's already time to go. So I managed to fill up the space. Good to see everybody, and I'll see you, mit Hashem, tomorrow, I think. I think we're going to work it out tomorrow, I hope. So I got a little fashla. I thought my son was going to be available, but he's not. But I'm going to try to figure it out, see if I can pull off the Chizuk before Shabbos at 6 o'clock. Stay tuned and look out for the notices. But certainly on Shabbos, I hope to see everybody davening or coming. And even if you don't have kids, you can come. If you come without grandchildren or children, I'll give you a peck or two. I eat candy too. So, okay.